Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is March 3rd, 6:30 p.m. This is the time and place for the Northern Lebanon School District Committee meeting. This board is meeting as a committee of the whole. I do call this meeting to order. I'd first like to announce publicly that the board met in executive session immediately prior to this committee meeting to discuss matters related to 2 legal issues involving students and 1 personnel matter. And with that, we'll move to the agenda. We have 2 presentations tonight. Dr. Messinger.
Yeah, we're going to start. You're going to get to hear Mrs. Bruce for like 2 months in a row because she's going to talk tonight about the hiring process, and then she's going to talk next month about our communication plan. So welcome, Mrs. Bruce.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I know I am one of 2 presentations, so if I go too long, you have additional questions after, feel free to email me and I can get back to you throughout the week. So Dr. Messinger had asked me to just kind of give a brief overview of the hiring process, the way that it stands right now. So I'm going to go through kind of 8 different steps, and then hopefully I can take some questions. Okay, so the first thing that we kind of go through after things have been posted is applications. Depending upon what the position is, applications are reviewed by different administrators. So for example, if it's an elementary posting, Chuck's here from the elementary school, Lee, maybe Chuck and Justin, the 3 of us, or the 3 of them, and I would go through all of the applications, and then we would decide who at that point to invite to first round interviews. The next step is that we schedule those first round interviews. And when we do that, we send out, and this is kind of new, get to know you questionnaires. So if you're wondering what get to know you questionnaires are, it really helps us develop rapport during that first initial round of interviews. So this is an example question that we have. Outside of work, what is something you are absolutely passionate about and can't understand why everyone is not? If you're wondering what that has to do with teaching, it really doesn't, but why are we asking these questions, right? One of the things that we were trying to accomplish with this is just getting to the person underneath, the interview process, right? Trying to figure out, are they able to express themselves clearly? Are they able to organize their thoughts in writing? And then once we get them in, are they able to kind of match what that looks like? So if somebody says to us, I really love gardening, this was a real answer, and that's something I'm passionate about. I became a master gardener, and this is something that, kind of propels me outside of work. When we get them in, we can talk to them about that, and we can kind of see how they connect with us as the interview panel, because then we can see how they might connect with kids. So all of the questions that we're doing are really designed to see how are they going to connect with kids, and then are they able to explain themselves to families if they're going to do a parent-teacher conference or things like that. So this is just one example of a real question that we ask to everybody that's coming in for a round 1. And like I said, there's no wrong answer. It's really just kind of getting to know them, and then we can talk about that as part of the interview process. And like I said, we have had a large variety of answers, and it's very fun to get to learn about people. Okay, so that was kind of step 3. We do first round interviews, follow-up discussion with the interview panel. From that point, a few candidates will be selected to go to round 2 if it's a position that we need a round 2 interview. So round 2 interviews, step 4, we kind of determine that format based upon the needs. So we will often have something different than just a standard sit around the table and talk. So for example, most of the teaching positions, we will ask the second round candidates to do a demonstration lesson. So if you look, and I know this is tiny font, I'm very sorry. If you look at the left-hand side, it says second round agriculture demonstration lesson. This I took from last year when we hired our second ag teacher last year. We sent this prompt to all of the second round candidates. So you can see up here, they were asked to create a 10-minute mini lesson on animal byproducts. Spoiler, I learned a lot during those lessons, actually. We gave them the standards. We asked them to do a lesson plan and bring a certain number of copies. And we told them who their audience was going to be. We pulled a group of real students, and then we told them what the room setup would be like. So then they would come in, they would do their demonstration lesson. We would have a couple question and answer things kind of at the end, then they would leave. So that was kind of round 2 for most teaching positions. And obviously all of the positions get a different prompt. This was just an example that I wanted to show you. Obviously, if it's a non-teaching positions, the things would be different. So we just completed football coach interviews. This is an example of something we did for round 2 for athletics position. So they were asked to create an off-season plan and talk about their goals, talk about how they would conduct themselves in the first 30 days on the job, things like that. And the theory behind that was we really wanted to, in that second round, kind of see their organizational skills, kind of see if their goals match the goals of the board and the program and things like that. And we build some of our, conversation topics off of that. So then, excuse me, after round two, we do a follow-up discussion with the entire interview panel, and we kind of make a determination about next steps. So at that point, we may select a candidate to bring to you, or we may decide like we're still kind of debating between two people, and at that point, we might have a third round interview. It's rare that we do that, but we have done that in the past. And at that point, we would probably bring in Dr. Messinger if he wasn't in one of the other two rounds. Okay, so then at step 6, assuming that we've chosen a candidate, this is new in terms of placement. Obviously, we always do full background checks, FBI clearances, everything like that, drug screening. But up until very recently, we kind of had that further in the process. We have moved it up. So now we ask SPO Lauber to do a cursory look just to make sure that we're not getting any surprises. And so he will take a look at people and then get back to us. And then at that point, we will make an offer of employment. So oftentimes the principal will like to be the first person to reach out to somebody if it's a teaching position or a paraprofessional position to see if they want to join the staff. And then I will do the follow-up with the offer. And then we finally bring them to you for your approval. And once that happens, we then collect all of the final clearances, make sure that all of their PSERS paperwork in, make sure everything the business office needs is in to process payroll. Then they will get badge, keys, technology, and onboarding, and then we set a start date. And I know I went through that really quickly, and things that I did not talk about are a lot that goes into before and after, right, in the hiring process. So this is fresh in our minds. Dr. Reese and I have a job fair next Tuesday at Millersville University. We had one last week at Penn State Harrisburg. We have mock interviews going on right now, and then Dr. Reese and I are also going to LVC to do a presentation for those graduating seniors. We have a lot that goes on to assign mentors, which you guys obviously know because you approve them. And then we spend a lot of time planning induction for our professional staff. So just a little snapshot of what goes into the hiring process.
Typically, how long is the process?
So positions have to be posted for 15 days if they're a CBA position. So it could go anywhere from 15 days to 45 days, depending upon. Oftentimes it's tough because, if you're scheduling things out and you're scheduling around a large interview panels, different meetings and whatnot. So I would say anywhere from 20 to 45 days is our average.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've done, I think this is our third elementary presentation. And Mr. Hurling is going to talk to us a little bit about some of the data. We've talked a lot about data, but he's going to focus specifically on full day K. Just a reminder that we piloted full day K a year ago. This year, all of our classes, with the exception of one, was full day K. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the data is showing us in terms of those kids. All right.
So thank you for having me tonight. I really can't go into too much with what last year has with some of the assessments because we have a new data warehouse this year. So those didn't carry over, but there are some comparisons I can make to last year. Some terms I'll throw out. We have diagnostics and we have benchmarks. Diagnostics assess student skills at a certain time. There are things that you need to get to the end of the road mark, end of the benchmark, I should say. They measure student progress. So our teacher SPMs are actually based on those from the beginning of the year diagnostic to the end of the year. We look for a year's worth of growth. So with the program we use iReady, students take a benchmark, initial benchmark in September. That will come out with a so a typical student growth would be this number. A stretch growth will be this number, and our teachers strive to get those kids from their initial to their annual growth measure. So that lets us know if those kids made a year's worth of progress. On the other hand, we have benchmark assessments. They assess state standards. So your PSSAs, your keystones, they are set on a standard that says by the end of this grade or this time, the student should be able to do this. We use diagnostics to kind of help teachers fill in the gaps to get students to those benchmarks. So one of the diagnostic that we use is iReady. Kindergarten only takes that at the beginning of the year because in September and October even, if you're in a kindergarten classroom, it's like herding kittens. They're kind of everywhere. So we get those things down before we do this.
The
So-
beginning of the calendar year,
Huh?
in January.
So, I'm sorry.
You said the beginning of the year. You don't mean
Oops.
the beginning of the school year. You mean,
Yeah, so we don't do it at the beginning of the
Right.
school year. We
They
do
just
it,
took- right.
beginning of the calendar year, so middle of year benchmark. So this year, their first time doing iReady diagnostic, we have about 59, almost 60% of our students are either early or on grade level or above. Comparatively, last year, with only one pilot full day kindergarten, the green on here was about 38%. So I don't have that chart, but I can get that to you if you want it. It's on our data hub for there. Some comparisons some growth that we have from this year. So beginning of the year, overall reading score, it factors into letter identification, letter sound identification, phonemic segmentation. If you're not familiar with that is, so the word cat, a student should be able to say cat, at, sound out all the parts of that word. Overall, their score, beginning of the year, you can see where students started. We just finished the trimester 2-1 in February. That would be our student growth. So the average is on level, but you can see not just that the blue and the green are growing, but that yellow, the students that are below level are really starting to shrink.
I'll just chime in there. These reading inventory tests, these are focused on ultimately getting students to read fluently. And as a former fifth grade teacher, I can tell you this: if I could get a kid that came to my classroom and could read fluently, I could get them to comprehend things. If I got a kid that was on a first or second grade reading level and I'm trying to teach them how to read at a fifth grade level, they just can't comprehend it because it's too broken up. And so we're putting a ton of emphasis, and this goes along with, I apologize again to Director Blau. My head's on structured literacy, and you had asked about financial literacy. Structured literacy and basically talking about a renewed emphasis on the phonics component. And this is where you have your letter naming, you have your letter sounds, which I think you're going to talk about here in a minute, your phoneme segmentation. That leads into what we call pseudo words, which are a consonant, vowel, consonant, but it's not a real word. So it's not going to be a dog, but it could be a
BIM.
Thank you, a BIM. That's a good one. And kids reading that, which ultimately then goes into reading passages and determining fluency levels, where we're also calculating their accuracy, because you can read the 50 times, but that doesn't. If you skip every other word to get to the accuracy is important there. So we can have more fluent readers going into our second grade classes, our third grade classes, and then focus on the comprehension, which then we have a fighting chance for students to be able to obtain that eligible content and apply those skills when it comes time to read, basically.
So one of the assessments that go into the composite score would be letter names. So beginning of the year in September, students on the left, you can see where they knew their letters. So that's a 1-minute timed assessment where they get uppercase and lowercase letters, and they just have to identify the letter. Again, from the February 1 to the right, you can see the student growth. Not only did the blue and the green grow, but what score counts as being on or above level also increases. So the beginning of the year, the average score for kindergarten, they knew about 14 letters. So take that into February, we're up to 37 letters. Next up is letter sounds. What sound do letters make? So you can see the growth. Again, it was made from September to the middle of February, especially how that yellow on the bottom decreased. So the average letter sound in kindergarten was 6 coming into school. They were at 30. We'll do these assessments one more time in May. That phonemic segmentation, you can see the growth there. One thing I did know, we did go from a blue in beginning of the year to a green. So we went from the average score being above level to the new average score being on level. When you look in the scoring tables, to get above level in the beginning of the, or I'm sorry, we do this in the middle of the year. We don't do this in the beginning of the year. To get above level in January, students have to have a score of 6 or higher. To get above level at this time of year, it has to be 26 or higher. So we are just below that, but if you look at we almost doubled what our students did from from the fall till February.
And if I'm not mistaken, you can't actually get orange on the first one.
I'm not sure. We don't do the orange one. So this one doesn't come in until middle of the year.
Right. I don't think there's an expectation, even if you get 0, I think you're green on the very first one because of the time of the year. And then that gets added in as you go to the second one. So that's why that looks skewed. In reality, phoneme segmentation is one of the best predictors of ultimately being able to read fluently. And so, we're looking halfway through the year there at a number of almost 86% of our kids, and we still have half a year left to go. So that's great.
This year, our kindergarten decided to trial a benchmark through Linkit. Again, the benchmark we talked about was that what a student should know by the end of a certain time. Green would be kids that are what we would say proficient or advanced. So there's our math score and there's our ELA score. So right now, approximately 83% of our students are proficient in math and about 80% of students are proficient in ELA. Going forward, ways to keep that up, we just want to increase that consistency in our core tier 1 instruction, limit special education referrals. Get the core of that instruction in the classroom. Continue to target deficit skills with our small group instruction. Use that data to determine what skills need to be worked on. And our teachers do a fantastic job of progress monitoring and adjusting their instruction to fit the needs of their students.
Thanks. I would like to dig back into some of that. Maybe Dr. Reese can help us with I'd like to compare, because I know that the full day has really increased those scores, but it'd be nice, I can work with him and you to get that together and send something out about it. But because I know that there's been dramatic improvement with being able to have kids here a full day. But thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hurley?
Well, that was sort of my question was, can you speak to that at all about, can you say that you're seeing an advantage to the students being here all day as compared to half day?
Yes. Especially just with the basic beginning literacy skills, letter sounds, letter names, compared to last year at this time.
So it's a greater benefit to the students to be here for the full day kindergarten rather than a half day?
Correct.
Thank you.
Can I ask the same question, but in a different way? If you compared the kids that are there this year, where between the half day to the 2 half day classes and the full day.
I can get that for you.
Yeah, I would be interested in that because,
Absolutely.
it's a little bit different because you have the kids that are in half day, their parents obviously chose half day for a reason. So yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how their results compare to the full day kids.
And my question kind of builds off of both of those. Next year, this time, I would love to see if we could do an analysis of this class of first graders in comparison with the data from the current year's first graders who had the second graders, like to see what the impact that a full day kindergarten had on that first grade class.
Ahead of you in that one. That was already
Great.
a goal of mine. So
Great.
because that was one of when we look at overall data, first grade always started so much farther behind because the kids coming into first grade had almost a half year of instruction as opposed to the full year. So I'm looking forward to comparing the beginning of the year, first grade from last year to the beginning of the year, this year till next year's first grade, beginning of the year.
Yeah, this is the most exciting stuff that we look at. And I think this is maybe a little bit of a pipe dream, but I think it'd be an interesting exercise to see how this particular class of kindergartners proceed through elementary school in comparison with the classes before them, just to as almost like a pilot to see how this assessment process has really benefited the district. Yep. Just an idea, not asking for it, but just an idea. Yeah. No.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Very good. Okay, we move now to our public comment portion of this meeting. All individuals wishing to participate with public comment were asked to register their intent with the board secretary by 3 p.m. today. I understand that we do have one individual that will be offering public comment. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer, that's me, and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name and group affiliation if applicable. Just to note, you do not have to state your address. I know that that's something that folks used to do. Each statement it shall be limited to 4 minutes duration. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, and no participant may address or question school directors individually. So our public comment this evening is Molly Lum. Mrs. Lum, it's good to meet you in person.
Face with the name. All right. Start when I start. Can you all hear me before I start? Okay, make sure I have a good volume. Good evening. My name is Molly Lum. I have lived in Northern Lebanon School District since 2018 and in my current home since 2021. My husband is a lifelong resident and a graduate of Northern Lebanon High School. I am here to speak tonight against the proposed 4.2% tax increase. I appreciate Mr. Naum for taking the time to respond to my emails. He was the only one of the 5 board members I emailed who did so. However, I strongly disagree with the idea that this increase is necessary or that its impact is minimal. I was told most homeowners would see an increase of about $10 per month. While that might sound reasonable in isolation, it ignores the reality of repeated tax increases over the past several years. Since moving into our home in 2021, our school taxes, if this increase is approved, will have risen by approximately $1,000 in just 5 years. I encourage residents to review their own tax bills over time rather than focusing on this 1 year alone. According to the 10-year budget projections Mr. Naum referenced and that I was provided with, there is no tax relief in sight. This raises a serious concern. If taxes have increased $1,000 in 5 years, what will the next 10 bring? Another $2,000? This is not sustainable. Northern Lebanon should be working to attract and retain young families. This is why we moved here. It was affordable. But now with inflation, rising home prices, and high interest rates, affordability is disappearing. Seniors are no longer the only ones struggling. Young families are struggling too, and increasing taxes only adds to that burden. One justification given for the tax increase is the need to raise teacher salaries due to a teacher shortage. While I agree that recruiting teachers is challenging, higher pay alone does not retain them. Teachers stay where they feel supported. Strong administration, consistent discipline, and classroom authority matter just as much, if not more, than salary. Many veteran teachers have left Northern Lebanon, even taking pay cuts to go elsewhere due to concerns with administration and lack of discipline and support. This is quite concerning to hear about an admin-heavy school. I reviewed both Northern Lebanon and CCA teacher contracts. Contrary to what was stated to me, Northern Lebanon actually pays more. For example, a new teacher with a bachelor's degree would start at approximately $59,000 here at NL compared to $54,000 at CCA. We are also losing students to CCA, which directly impacts this district's budget. While I understand the financial burden this creates, the more important question is why students and teachers are leaving. From conversations with parents, I do not believe morale and culture has improved. Until the root causes are addressed, raising taxes will not solve the problem. Finally, I want to address the issue Mr. Naum mentioned to me that about $3 million reportedly being withheld by Bethel Township for the construction projects. I pursued this dialogue as I worked for a township and was familiar with the procedure of holding money within an escrow for projects. Mr. Naum then stated that Northern Lebanon Business Office reported the school was on the township's March agenda, but that not all funds would be released, and he was unclear as to why. I spoke with the township manager directly yesterday, and I learned that this money is tied to 2 letters of credit, one for the elementary school, where it also seems the field house money was lumped into, and one for the middle and high school. Procedure states funds are released only after inspections are requested by the school and completed. A request was just made this past January for the elementary school funds, which is sitting at just over $800,000, despite the last action only occurring back in 2023. I have a copy of that letter here with me. As of yesterday, no inspection has occurred, resulting in a recommendation being made to the township manager to release funds, and therefore this item is not on the township's agenda. The second letter of credit, worth approximately $1.5 million for the middle school and high school project, has never had a request submitted for release of funds. This means the funds are not being withheld arbitrarily. Northern Lebanon has not completed the necessary steps to access them. Either this was miscommunicated to me via email or follow-through did not occur within the business office. Regardless, it is not fair to ask residents to pay higher taxes when available funds have not been fully pursued. There are many factors contributing to the district's financial situation, and I have only touched on a few. A handful of minutes to speak does not allow for thorough conversation. Meaningful progress will not be made without transparency and open dialogue from or with residents. Thank you for
Great.
your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you. And I would just like to note that, Mrs. Lum, I'm happy to talk with you again afterwards. Maybe to clarify maybe a couple things. Great, thank you. Okay. Item on the agenda is items for discussion. And again, this is committee meeting, so minutes shall note that the public was given notice of this meeting in accordance with Act 84 of 1986. Notices and advisements of these meetings will carry the intent that limited business may be conducted on any scheduled meeting date. So we are going to go through and establish our consent calendar for next week, but I would note that we also do have 2 voting items at the end. So we'll start with establishing the consent calendar. Dr. Messinger.
5.1. Oh, sorry. 5.1 is just our minutes from our February meeting. 6.1 would be our typical student account statement for the month of February, and then our cash disbursements also for 6.2. From an instructional standpoint, we are in need of a homebound instructor. And you can see that we have Mrs. Gumber lined up to provide 5 to 10 hours a week of homebound instruction for a student with the dates listed there. Also, we have our annual agreement with children and youth experiencing homelessness to be renewed for the 26-27 school year. Any questions on those?
I just had one note. I was looking over the minutes this morning, and I noticed that item 13.1 says director motioned to approve 13.1, but we don't have a name. So I think we probably just need to go back through our notes and figure out which director offered that motion.
All right, we'll take a look at the video and
Yep.
figure that out. Instant replay. Under number 8, we have several field trip requests that are listed there for you various times. Going to quite the variety of places, including our family and consumer class goes to the Cook Around the World down at Disney. We also have another European trip listed there for you. Marching band and choir, concert choir also going to Florida for you. So quite a few things available for our kids. Number 9, under employment. We have 2 there. We have a general education aide, Jessica Rennick, and we also have Sarah Brophy, who is going to take the payroll clerk position that was available due to a retirement. We have one of our professional staff extending a leave, coming off of maternity leave, and we also have another professional employee for medical reasons extending a leave until April 30th, 2026. We do have one co-curricular advisor, and that is Juliana Toro as an instructional leader for English, replacing Julie Byler, who will be moving to our ESL position. We have several teachers listed there for tenure. Sylvana Goli, and then also Lisa Bolts, who actually joined us from another district, but recently we received the paperwork that she had completed the process in that other district. We have a retirement there listed for you. Brenda Smith will be retiring at the end of the school year. We did have some additional substitutes listed and coaches listed for you. If you remember, our former student representative, Carter Kubica, was one of those. He's going to be helping with volleyball as he goes back and forth from college to be able to do that as much as he can. But I thought you might remember him from his time here with us. And then we have to, I don't know, Director Murray, your term is up in June for IU 13. So you're going to have to, I guess, work with Director Nam on deciding if you would like to continue or if someone else would like to fill that position.
So I already conferred with Director Murray, and my understanding is that Director Murray is willing to continue for another year, but she does not want to stand in the way if another director would like to fill in. Am I representing that correctly? So is there any interest from another director to step into the IU 13? Okay. Hearing none, we will place on the agenda next week, Director Murray is continuing as IU 13. If in the course of the next week, there is another individual that would like to, we'll just move that to discussion. Okay? All right, thank you. Thank you, Director Murray. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, and we do have two voting items tonight. These are student agreements that were talked about during exec session, 10.1 and 10.2 that we need to vote on.
Okay, so before we go to the voting items, is there any desire from any member of the board to move any of the items that were discussed in, pardon me, items 5.1 through 8 thank you, 9.8 to discussion, or any questions regarding any of those items? Okay, hearing none. It's good, pretty straightforward. We'll move all of those to consent, and then we will move immediately to the one voting item that we do have. I don't have my narrative, but just note that all the votes will be counted as a unanimous roll call vote unless there is any opposition, in which case the president, I will call for a roll call vote. We will proceed as we normally do with all voting items. So we will, Dr. Messinger will introduce the item and then we'll receive motions, seconds, and discussion. Okay? Thank you.
And the first one would be 10.1. They're both student agreements. And there's detail for the board because it is a student agreement, but there's not detail on the agenda. But the first student agreement, 10.1.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve item 10.1?
Motion to approve 10.1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Blau, thank you. Second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving item 10.1, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, my vote is also yes. That motion carries unanimously.
And
10.2.
same thing for 10.2.
Is there a motion to approve item 10.2? Thank you, Director England. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Director Moyer. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving item 10.2, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, my vote is also a yes, so that motion also carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to information.
Yeah, just some dates listed there for you. I got to see a preview of the musical Mamma Mia on Monday. I didn't spoil it for myself. I saw parts of it so I could go back and see the whole thing. It was very, very good. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if you get a chance to go see Mamma Mia.
Great, thank you. Okay, anything else to bring to the board? Okay, hearing nothing then with consent, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.